Hi, everyone. Welcome back. Today we are continuing our conversation, going to talk about the third good reason to feel like an imposter. This work, of course, comes from this wonderful book, Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. It applies to men as well. And one of the things that I want to talk about is why is this even important? Why do we even talk about imposter syndrome? The reason why is because if you are someone who wakes up every day thinking, how in the world did I get in this position? Was it by luck? Was it by chance or circumstance? And you're afraid that at any moment you're going to get fired for something, you're going to lose your job or your credibility or what have you. That is, in a word, exhausting. It is absolutely exhausting. It is draining. It creates havoc in other areas of life when you start to lose your patience. It can be a time suck because you feel like you always have to be on. The amount of people pleasing and perfectionism and time that you give to your career may be off the charts, maybe a little over functioning in that realm. And it can be absolutely exhausting, which then leads to higher anxiety and more issues. So that's why we're talking about it, because I want you to understand reasons, situations that can contribute to it. And I want to support you in getting some relief. So let's go into the third good reason to feel like a fraud. Number 3, you work in an organizational culture that feeds self-doubt. So sometimes you can still feel inept or worried about your performance, even if your work culture really supports. And when I say really supports, meaning their claims of supporting collaboration and risk taking and learning from mistakes aligns with their behavior, that they actually walk the talk. Okay, because there's so many companies that say, we encourage collaboration and risk taking and mistakes, and then it's okay, let's fail forward. They'll use terminology and lingo to say it, but then if a mistake gets made, or if a learning opportunity presents itself that people weren't aware of, then it becomes, who are we going to blame? Let's not only write up a report about all the things that went wrong, which is fair enough. That's a great tool for self-reflection. However, any tool can be a weapon depending on how you hold it. And so if that tool around oh, this was an oversight or this was a mistake that happened, and then that is no longer used as a learning tool, but it becomes a punitive weapon that comes up in your performance reviews, or suddenly, you're having negative impacts and you cannot fail forward safely, then that shares that is indicative of a culture that actually does not support learning. And it becomes indicative of a culture that maybe breeds self-doubt. So one thing that you can do is ask yourself, does your company perpetuate infighting, party politics, perfectionism, not just in the language they use, but in the actual practice? When it comes down, when the rubber is hitting the road, are people throwing other people under the bus? If so, then it may not be you that that falls. There's something inherently wrong with the way that you're thinking. It could be that your work culture is one where it's not exactly safe to not know everything. It's not exactly safe to make any mistakes. And that will breed so much self-doubt. It will take a toll on your confidence. And it can really be fuel to the fire for imposter syndrome. So what can you do? First of all, decide what is yours and not yours. This is a concept I talk to a lot with my clients. And what I mean by this is how much of this is your own personal insecurities, right? What about the messages you had in childhood about learning, about mistakes, things like that, right? How much of it is yours and how much of it is not yours? How much of it is the company culture? How much of it is that they may be saying one thing and doing another? So, and maybe your company, maybe you take a look at that and go, "Oh, actually, my company really genuinely does support, collaboration and failing forward and risk taking and things like that." They actually genuinely do. They're trying everything they can to create safety in as we, work towards innovation or whatever goals there are, right? Perhaps that is true. And then it's yours. Maybe it's your stuff that's interfering. But I think more often than not, there is, and some of this also can be the nature of the job, university settings, law, medical settings. Many of industries have a high standard for perfection. You do it right the first time. And so that could not be yours. And it could not even be a company culture thing. It could just be the nature of the work. The nature of the work is one that demands perfection almost at all times. And so that could just be the nature of the work. And then you can kind of separate yourself. This is the nature of the work. This is why I go into panic mode. This is why I'm so anxiety fueled. But that doesn't mean there's anything wrong with me. It doesn't mean that I'm incompetent or I'm not smart enough or I just don't know all the things. It just means that the nature of the work is like this. And so now I know that and I can go in with that awareness. Okay. And then finally, what I would recommend is reaching out to trusted colleagues and friends, people who are in the industry that you're in. There's massive, massive power, as we all know, around sitting around, sharing our stories and hearing somebody else who we admire, who we, really love, we're inspired by, and have them say, "Me too. I struggle with that as well." And to be able to share strategies, things that you've learned along the way. But that power of going, "Wow, here's somebody I've got on a pedestal. I think they're amazing. I think they're so powerful. And they struggle with imposter syndrome. What? Okay, maybe I'm in good shoes." All right. If you want to learn more about imposter syndrome and some real life strategies that you can use to overcome these feelings, please join me. August 13th, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. It will be a virtual training. I will be there live. I hope you will join me. We will go over all the ins and outs of imposter syndrome and give you some really hands-on tools and resources so you can go forward and not be sucked into the exhaustion, anxiety cycle that imposter syndrome perpetuates. All right. I will leave a link in the comments below so you can go ahead and check it out. And if you want to learn more about me and my work, you can see me at AllisonKinnear.com. I will be coming at you later with tip number 4. We still have, if I'm doing math right, we still have 4 more good reasons to feel like an imposter. I will be sharing those with you throughout this week and next. See you then.